Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. I am General Foley.
I am Grand Ensign Cockings.
Grand Ensign. It's good. It's good. Anyway, we're here today to talk about a devastating ship, if you will. General Picard's CSS World Razer.
One of the most glorious ships in all of the history of our tremendous force. You know, we've not looked at it for about 15 years now. We've kind of avoided it because it's just too powerful in legacy. But now we finally found a place. We finally found time. It's worth talking about such a classic ship and legacy of our great Terran world and universe. Not Empire. We're not an Empire. Just for clarity.
I want to make it clear too. This is the world Razer with an E, Razer, not OR. Razor with an O is something you shave your face with. A razor, anybody that raises something, destroys it utterly and completely. All buildings, so that nothing can be used again. It's kind of like Genghis Khan and his scorched earth. Go through, you kill everybody, you destroy all the buildings, you blacken the earth, and you salt it so nothing will ever grow again. That's raising an area. So yeah, we're going to look at that ship today in a little bit more detail. We did get some early concept sketches and stuff from Sean Turinjo. There's a whole team that worked on this ship, but we want to talk about the painting we see in Picard's study. So.
Yeah, we're going to go through a journey here. Starts with the painting, ends with the painting, and look at the stuff. And as with many parts of Picard, we've already been blessed with lots of art that it actually shows it. And so unlike our discoveries or even Picard Season 1, trying to find those best images, we've got the best images, give or take. But we're doing a follow-up with this later on with people that worked on the ship as well, Sean Turinjo especially, and a more detailed... Some of the concept art we'll do more detailed later, because it appeared in this episode. It might come back, who knows? But yeah, so here's the painting fully revealed in the episode. We have reviewed it, we have seen it. It's clearly a Galaxy class, but without a lot of Galaxy class elements. It's a very good... We know what it is, and it still isn't. That's a successful design to trick your brain and yet be like, oh wait, what?
I mean, when I first saw it, I was pretty stoked. It looked like something mean and vicious, but at the same time, I also got, like bat plane vibes.
Yeah, Batwing.
Something.
Yeah.
Batwing. Yeah, something Batman would fly. Or people have pointed out Cylon Raider as well. So, yeah.
And we definitely hoped to see it in motion and flashback. Warp in and shoot some ball cubes. That's what it's doing here. Would have been such an amazing scene. The next shot, though, is a close-up from the ready room, which I was keen to get, and far, far crisper detail in this one. Actually shows off.
There's actually, you see a lot of these spiky things on the front. Actually asked Sean Turinjo what those were, and he says either like phaser lances of some kind, or something similar. So I love that.
What's funny to me is that you're not meant to see in this detail, so you can see those phaser lances just stuck on. To some extent, they're not particularly integrated in the same way. But I do really like how the deflector is. It's a very good, very smart choice for what it is. And just having the Cylon style split gives a lot of good vibes. But still, we can't see it in full detail, Stuart. Well, the next view is one of Sean's early sketches. This does not represent the final, but it was where his brain was going early in the process. And you can see his let's use Galaxy X, the Dreadnought, with the phase lance in the middle, which makes sense. That's the only tactical version we ever saw. But I just wanted to throw this in as this is kind of early in the journey. What do you think?
I really like this one. I do like the inclusion of the phaser lance on the bottom of the saucer, and I kind of wish they had gone with more of a Galaxy X style, even with the third nacelle, even though you can't really see it in the painting. But I think that would have been much more imposing, and then make some of the alterations and changes on that one. But yeah, this looks cool. I love the inclusion of that little deflector in the front of the saucer on this. That's awesome. Yeah, and I love the nacelles as well, and even those struts, the way they're like kind of angled instead of curved.
Yeah, this is a really great example of taking the he obviously had a Galaxy picture in front of him and then sort of sketched over it and then started doing things. And actually, it still feels like a cohesive vision, which I really like. So well on him for making something. But that side view feels really different in its own way. It feels chunky. It's changed the vibe. So I congratulate for that. But the next view, though, is a far closer to the final version. So it's still not finished. But you can see how it instantly got shifted quite drastically into at least the shapes of what would end up being the final and certainly more clear details of what Sean was going for. And obviously, what a treat to have orthographics as well to visualize it properly.
These concept sketches are always really cool, just to see the kind of the process that goes on and the details that are put in that sometimes don't transfer over to the final product.
Often don't.
Yeah, often don't. Yeah, I do like the sleekness of the hull without windows. I gotta say, I know that they didn't have the windows just because it was a concept sketch, but it would have been cool to kind of have that look. And those nacelles are awesome. I'm a huge fan of those. Not from the top so much. But that 3/4 view, they look really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perspective drawing. I'm having a vaguely hard time connecting all the different shapes. You know, the 3/4 doesn't quite look like the top and the side, which, of course, it won't. It's a conceptual thing, but I like the concept of them a lot. It's taking Enterprise D and just sharpening up a lot, but the top view is still smoother than I was expecting. So on the side, it doesn't look like it would be curved in the same way. I got the impression it was very Enterprise A crisply, sharp. Not a bad thing per se, but I love the deflector placement. It really sings here. It's actually more integrated, I would say, than the other version, in which case kind of this feels more distinct. The other one just feels like an Enterprise D deflector. This feels it is that, but it's been really organically installed.
And I kind of love that they pulled it out of the secondary hull, and not just have two of them. So
because my assumption is those are I guess 6 torpedo launchers on either side at the bottom of the secondary hull. I'm assuming that's what they're speaking to, because why else would you remove it from there if not to make weapons there? Kind of what I'm seeing, in which case that's a hell of a 12 forward torpedo launchers on just the secondary hull. What do you think of the side view? I do like it. I think it comes together in a unique form. I like how different it is, but still the same. I think I like it.
I'm not the biggest fan of that. There's a lack of definition with where the nacelles are, and the nacelles seem to point downwards at the back, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, if you look on the far right here, you can see the nacelle from the side, and I'm actually, once I see it from the full side, I wish the top was longer than the bottom at the back. If they had done that, the silhouette from the side might be a little bit better, but yeah, something about that side profile, it just bothers me a little bit. The front looks intimidating for sure, but
the next view, though, I'm assuming is the final approved concept in situ, with the angle and obviously the Borg being destroyed. And I loved his, you can see some of the Kit Bash images from other Borg movies just kind of stuck in. So I really like that. And you can see, this is where Sean pushed it off. This is how far he got. So it's mostly the same design as the previous one, with slight revisions. Obviously, Aztecing, beautiful to include, and some other details that are unique as well.
It's a little bit clunky for sure. The neck just seems like twisted, kind of funny, and so I know it's just a placeholder. Like, this is what we're going to base the painting on, so just kind of throw it in. But it's not. It just doesn't look intimidating. It looks kind of goofy in this concept, I gotta say.
And in fairness, it is in a vaguely cartoon style as well. It's not trying to be hyper real, so there is that slight distinction. If you go back 1 second, the sharpness of that saucer gives it a really aggressive feel, and you come back to the other one, that's all lost in this view. It looks far more. Your brain sees the very bulky nacelles and, like you said, the disjointed slightly neck, and it all kind of feels suddenly 5 times more clunky. So it's definitely less opposing this way, and feels more like a fan drawing. The previous one felt like a more cohesive design, and that's interesting how just a slight shift in perspective can do that. But then the next view is when this got handed off to Darren Doctorman, who worked on multiple Star Treks. He actually worked as a concept artist on Picard Seasons 1 and Seasons 2. He worked as a big force on the remastered TMP, both the old and now the new 4K. So he was handed off the concept sketches, and he did this. His job was then to take that into more of a 3D realm, and so he made this version, a quick 3D interpretation.
Well, again, looks super more aggressive. He added some more details here to make it look a little bit more pointy and mean. And I got to point out too, somebody last night was talking to me about this on my live reaction, and they're like, well, if it should be called the CSS World Razer Enterprise. I'm like, well, why? Because it's got the registry NCC 1701D, because of those pictures you shared on Trekyards earlier. I'm like, no. They just used a 3D model of the Enterprise that they cut up and changed things around. So that's not in the final product. But it says it on so it's not the Enterprise. They just used a model. I know. It's frustrating. But it looks very cool here. The engines haven't been changed. And I think in the final product, even, they're still very similar to the actual Galaxy class.
Well, we'll get back there,
So
because you can see the engines are the least important thing when the Saucer is such a broad thing. Obviously, kept the Batwing, kept the... This is the familiar style of... Now it's more just the Enterprise D deflector stretched a little bit inside a chassis. So it's a slightly less integrated, although it has a certain robustness. So it's more kit bash, less design, but now it feels more like, okay, they would do that because they need to, rather than let's build a whole design. It's interesting how a shift... It does help, obviously. What I think Darren's done is I think he's built a new saucer, because the saucer is pretty radical. He's attached the texture from the ILM model to give it the texturing, and he just used the secondary hull from the original model, which is why it's so nice and curved and lovely. And that sharp curve, if you go back a step to Sean's version, because of how it's all more bulbous it doesn't quite work as well. You cut back to Darren's, and because you've now regained the Enterprise D's sharpness, that works way better all of a sudden. At least now the more fleshed out form.
Yeah, and those torpedo launchers that were in the secondary hull now appear to be some kind of bay doors, maybe like shuttle bay doors, which we kind of speculated at first. Also, and this thing that bothers me too, when they went to the final painting, they kept the windows on the bottom curved along the oval like it is on the Enterprise D, and I don't think they would necessarily do that with the way that is shaped and cut off. I think they would have different window alignments. I don't know what you think about that, but with those cutouts and just the way those windows kind of go right up to the edge of it, and it translates to the painting as well. I just don't think I think they would have different window configurations on those sides, personally.
I mean, probably no windows on the bottom. Why would you, as a mega warship, have it, even at all? I mean, at least on those side parts, because the source is meant to be the living space and some labs. This thing might just have gun ports, etc. But then it was more in situ, and then to replicate the painting with the phaser beams is obviously then their approval version to try and get it approved and a bit more actiony. Still the same 3D picture, but so we're getting very close now to the final, and I think it definitely has a kick, but I am missing the phaser strips around the outer that Sean put in. I mean, there's phasers coming from nowhere in this version, and if you're going to include those big new pointy phaser lances, I feel like maybe use one.
Or two, like have the two on this side closest going straight out or something. Yeah, I was just going to say there's some phaser fire from nowhere, and the sides on this, for what the ship was designed for, definitely needs phaser strips. It would be cool if there was like a double row of phaser strips.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah. This thing should be phaser stripped out. The next view, though, is a comparison now, the journey, as it were, from concept from Sean, from concept from Darren, to final painted by art team, who, as you can see, then took both into consideration, because they did then, use the nacelles roughly that Sean designed, and then did their own detailing that's not even on... I mean, this might not be Darren's final iteration, but it's the final one he shared. So that's kind of how it all comes together.
Yeah, it's an interesting process for sure. The whole design and then staging it and then getting a 3D model and then actually the painting.
Although it's interesting, if you look at... I'm actually thinking that they probably utilised... Because there's painting and there's digital painting as well, as a baseline. Because if you look at all three, there's the exact same arrangement of Borg green elements, Borg lit elements below the saucer on the left-hand side. It's maintained all three versions. And so obviously when presumably they took, the final version, just paint it verbatim. But it's funny to see them then paint the lines of a kit bash 3D, 2D picture that was either given to Sean or Sean did. It's kind of funny to see how the artist didn't, that is the damage of the Borg cube, and here we go through it. It's kind of cute.
Yeah. And it's hard to tell in the painting, like it's an oil painting, it looks like, and it seems very old actually, because there's a lot of detail and stuff lost in it. Yeah, it serves its purpose. I wish I saw more of the ship in a little bit more clear detail for the final. But
yeah, and if you go back to picture 2, though, obviously that is the ready room close up. We can kind of see things put back in, but I mean it really is just the Enterprise D. I mean, it even does maintain on that left hand side we just talked about, the windows. A window literally goes up until the edge. Like they maintained those. They didn't quite finish the model. You can see some escape pod hatches that also go up right to the edge. So they didn't quite finish it as an actual model. We can now see they sort of stopped at a certain point and painted that.
Well, I mean, they're thinking it's going to be on the wall. We're going to get a camera pan of it. That's
Absolutely.
about it, right? So.
Basically, it's just cute because they never intended to see it on live action. I would have finished an actual 3D model, as you can see, it is very much that. But at least the phases come from phaser points. They got that.
The only other thing I have to say is maybe this is like a transformer. Maybe this is its battle mode. Maybe when it's not in battle mode, these sections kind of shift a little bit to become more closer to what we know as the Galaxy class design. Maybe that would explain the window placement still. I don't know.
Yeah, I had considered.
I'm just trying to make sense out of it.
Yeah, I had considered that. It would be certainly fun to see it slide into attack mode, but then it would imply whatever's in there is very something. That's when, I mean, imagine if there were two phaser launchers that came out of that. That would be a thing. So it's like, oh, now we're in business. But there you go. What a great thing, and I'm glad that the final painting, picture one, if they did update it even more, it's more different. Yet you can see the holdovers from the original. It comes together extremely well on the painting. It really does. Good job them for designing a faithful yet different yet new yet radical Enterprise D knot.
Yeah, and as we said, we're probably going to have Sean Churanjo on the show soon to talk about it. There were a lot more iterative stages and more concept designs that were done, which we'll look at in more detail when we do that. So make sure you join us for those. So subscribe and click notify so you don't miss them. And please comment down below what you thought of this show.
Yes, we want to know.
Just remember, CSS World Razer with an E. So anyway, yeah, if you want to join us for lives, we have some live breakdowns and things like this as well. We love looking at ships. We love looking at tech. We love doing reviews of new Trek. So if you don't want to miss out, please join us for the live.
And support what we do. The weekly, the daily, sometimes twice a day videos, depending how amazing the stuff is. Videos, support on Trekyards by joining us live. Super chatting if you can. If you can't, just say hi, comment, like. Those things do help as well. Or monthly via Patreon, and join the channel on YouTube. And one time on PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com, or buy a merch down below. There are links. Go choose, go pick, have fun, and tune in next time.
So until later, guys, I'm going to promote you to General Cockings. It's a big jump.
Well, that would be so exciting if we knew Picard was going to undo this timeline any minute now.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Okay, I will. And he's General Foley. Yes, there you go.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.